Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Digital Speakeasy with me, Kieron Elliott. Thank you very much for tuning in. This is my second show, and I am over the moon to have my first guest on right now, Tamer Kattan. I guess I better sort of do a little bit of a backstory. Tamer
Sure.
and I met on a comedy course, a 10-week comedy course in Los Angeles, taught by award-winning best comedy teacher in the world, Jerry Katzman, who is quite incredible as a teacher, absolutely phenomenal. And then some of us have went on to do stand-up regularly. I dropped out of because it takes up so much time. But Tamer, by far, you have had the most incredible career since, and you know.
Oh, thanks, man.
2 minutes, there's videos of you here and here, and yeah, you've just done incredibly well. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you, man. That means a lot. I appreciate it. You were always one of my favorites. You always cracked me up.
Well, I was the naughty schoolboy at the back of the class getting in trouble.
Hey, man. I think it was a classroom full of that archetype, you know. But it was great, and it's so lovely to find out when you share a dream with somebody or you share a passion with somebody that years later you still have a connection with them. It's really great. Absolutely. I love comedy for that.
And it's wonderful to have watched you, bloom and go on to great things. And, you're very diligent with your social media. You put your things up on social, and I always click on them. I always watch them because you are just so fucking funny.
Really thanks, man. I really appreciate that. You're like the dad I should have had.
It's funny you say that. See the person up here with the microphone in front of him. It says Sri. How do you pronounce your name?
Sri. S-R-I.
Sri. That's a cool name.
So I was talking to Sri before because he joined not that long ago, and it's a minute now, but I haven't spent a lot of time with him. And we're chatting away, and he was like, "Yeah, talking music, talking equipment," and he's like, "Yeah, I was in a band in the '80s, and blah blah blah." And he spoke for a moment, and I went, "Wait a minute, you were in a band in the '80s? How old are you?" And he says, "I'm 49." I went, "What? I look like I could be your dad."
Yeah, he looks great, man. What do you sleep in coconut oil? Crazy.
Lots of this stuff. It does wonders.
Smart man. Yeah, it's true.
Pickled in the inside, preserved. That's what it is. So, Tamer, are you here in Los Angeles still, or are you in New York now?
No, I'm in New York, but I'm coming to Los Angeles at the end of the month. I'm about to headline my first weekend in real life, IRL, in Sacramento. So I'm excited. I've been doing Zoom, tons of Zoom shows. Whether they're benefits, private parties, it's really changed the comedy business side, and I think it's had a really positive effect on the art side. It's just another, it's just another platform to try to be funny and pressure test your comedy in. So it's been great. I was very resistant in the beginning, but remember that movie Castaway with Tom Hanks?
Yeah.
When he drew that face on the volleyball, I'm like, that's a Zoom show. Like, right? It's a Zoom, like that face on the, like, it's not a real human, but if it went away, I'd cry. You know what I mean? Like it's this replacement for the real thing for me, but it's been good. I really enjoyed it.
Just as a quick aside, the actor that played Wilson in Castaway was also the same actor that was in the volleyball scene in Top Gun.
Wow, impressive resume.
Not lucky. So how does that work? If you're doing virtual comedy, if you're doing, if people have requested you, because one of the things that we learned in the course was, if you've got a bit that you think is funny, don't do it to one person, or don't do it to a quiet room. Don't abandon it if it doesn't work the first time. Stick at it if you think it's funny. How do you cope with having maybe not the laughs that buoy up a set?
Yeah, what's funny is there's a quote I really like. It's like an old tribal quote, and it says, "Knowledge is only a rumor until it lives in the muscle." And I think that that's very true for comedy. It's very true for boxing. You have to do certain things so repetitively that you stop thinking, and that your body just goes into autopilot. And I think that's what happens if you've been doing comedy for long enough, and it's just about connecting with other human beings, whether it's human beings in a room with you or it's people through a screen. Whether you're looking at one person, or I personally tend to put it in gallery view so I can see sort of that Brady Bunch perspective, then, you just find ways. Like, I had one of my friends the other day, and he utilized the chat section. And in the middle of his set, he goes, "I just sent everybody a dick pic." And we're like, "What?" And there it was. It said dick.jpg. And we clicked it, and it was Dick Van Dyke. And it was just like, so it was just like, I loved his creativity. I loved his ability to like find a use for that platform. Not the greatest dick pic joke, but it was still a really creative use of a part of the platform that I hadn't seen anybody use before.
Bait and switch, though.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a bait and switch. Yeah, bait and cringe.
But that's part of comedy. It's that sort of surprise aspect.
Yeah.
And before the show, I was doing a bit of research. I put down a couple of my jokes, just the ones that you can rattle off, the one-liners that are just easy to rattle off or whatever. And then I did a bit of research looking for funniest joke in the world, or top 10 commandments of comedy, all these sort of fun things to interject. And the first one that came up was dreadful.
Of course,
comedy is so subjective, and it was a guy at Harvard. He'd asked 1.5 million people to submit their jokes, and then he got a million people to review them and choose their favorite. And the top one was dreadful.
Yeah,
it just shows you it's hard to predict.
Yeah, I think comedy more so than any other medium is a living, breathing thing.
Yeah,
and it's like saying, oh, here it is, and then it moves. It's like comedy's alive. It's about the here and the now. That's why so many like old movies that are dramas that have won Oscars, they still hold up. And so many comedies from even 5 years ago just don't, because comedy's attached its hitch to pop culture and to the movement of society. And when anything changes, whether it's like if your target was once an underdog, maybe now it's the alpha dog. You never know.
Yeah.
So comedy's mobile. It's got to stay fresh.
It's so true. Slapstick used to be the thing. Vaudeville was, kind of wonderful slapstick elements to it. And then the first movies had great slapstick with Laurel and Hardy and etc. Now you can't do slapstick because it's like violence. You're hitting
well, that's the thing. As soon as they say that you can't do it, it starts to create the fertile soil for somebody doing it in a different way. So it's like that's what I love about it. Is it's so mysterious. It feels like such a craft. And it's so, I love that it's not describable. It's ironically like the word love. It's sometimes you just know what is funny and what isn't funny.
Yeah. It's funny, you say that, two things I want to say. One, do you still get nervous when you go on, or is that all behind you?
Sometimes, yeah, I definitely do. I get nervous, and I've gotten really nervous and it didn't show at all. And I've gotten very tiny bit nervous and it totally did show.
Right. Yeah.
So it just like I think I manage it pretty well for the most part. Like I've pressure tested my comedy in so many different situations, from performing in the South in front of people who loved Trump and hated my political jokes, and to Afghanistan, to a mosque, to a temple. So I mean, I've pressure tested it everywhere. And the best thing in the world is being a comic and knowing no matter how hard you fail, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
And having that feeling is the best.
It's just something you said on stage.
Yeah.
It popped out my mouth. And I think that really brings home, again, one of the things Jerry said was just be yourself. As soon as you walk on, people look at you and they go, I'm fascinated already. I want to know, this guy's got brown skin, but I can't tell where he's from. I love the tattoos, with your bottle cap on with the flat rim. You're fascinating when you go up.
Thanks,
as soon as I open my mouth, people they don't want to hear about my opinions about where my milk comes from or Los Angeles or whatever. They want to know about, where the fuck are you from? What's the accent? And you have to play to that a little bit, don't you?
Sure. I mean, I think we're all interesting, and we all have something to say. That's why reality TV's blown up as big as it has, and why talk shows are so damn interesting. I think it's just we're all storytellers. It's just that we've been so almost violated by corporate America and branding and marketing, telling us what we are and what we're not and what we should be, that now there's like an entire business of books and instructors and TV shows and films telling us just to be ourselves. That's all it is at the end of the day. Like I can't believe how much study and effort, whether it's through comedy on a craft level to meditation on a soul level, where I'm just trying to be free and just trying to be myself. And I think that's the ultimate. Like I had a therapist who decided to come see me perform because I moved to New York. So we ended our relationship, So he came to the show and he got a little bit buzzed. And he said, this was a very cathartic experience for me. And I said, why do you say that? And he goes, because you're free. You are up there with no HR department, with no responsibilities compared to me. None of that stuff. He's like, and I have to wear this tie that looks just like a leash. And I feel like a dog watching a wolf. Like, yes, I have food. Yes, I have shelter. Yes, I have a warm home, but you're wild. And I come from you, and watching your freedom inspires me. And I was like, whew. I mean, what a big, incredible bar to aim towards. I don't think I'm as free as he perceived me to be, but for that 10 minutes of time, I think I succeeded.
I think once you've honed your craft and you're good at what you do, and you know the jokes will more than likely work. They don't always work every night, and there's a ebb and a flow. There's some that are just tent poles, and and you look forward to it coming up, and you know it's coming, and you're like, yes, here's favorite, whatever. But it's funny that you say that. I think that freedom that he was talking about comes from having done it and done it and done it, and you're confident up there. I remember I used to do the Comedy Store every Friday night with what's his name?
Brian?
No, a bit crazy hair, mixed race guy.
Oh, Vargas Mason.
Vargas Mason. Yeah. So I used to do Vargas on a Friday night.
He's great.
The main room, the one with Louis C.K. with the big.
Sure, the main room.
Great stage. And I always remember being not nervous, but being on turbo. My body was, it was like fight or flight, and the adrenaline's going, and you go through your stuff, again and again and again. And if I didn't have that element of sort of, scaled up, pent up nervousness or whatever, I wouldn't rehearse as hard as I could. And the second I step on stage, it all flows away. Yeah. Suddenly it's my moment. And the feeling of being able to walk out in front of 300, 400 people, and the way I would always start is go up to the mic and just stand there, because I had my kilt on.
Oh, that's right. I remember that.
Kilt on and this big socks and all the rest of it. I'd just walk out and just stand there in perfect silence for a good 10 seconds until they all laugh, and then it subsides. Then it gets nervous, and then it subsides. And being able to just stand there in perfect.
That's black belt level stuff.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
So talking about favorite jokes, do you have any that have come with you throughout your career that you still go to, or has it completely evolved and it's brand new material?
Sure. I mean, there's certain jokes that are evidence that I can write a joke. The actual craft of joke writing, and then there's certain jokes that are foundational jokes that define who I am as a person. And I think those jokes don't go away, because a big part of comedy is getting them to know who you are before you can explain your perspective on the world. So I think some of those jokes about having a Muslim dad and a Jewish mom, those jokes stay. And then now they've evolved to where I'm telling jokes about Trump from the perspective of an immigrant and getting death threats for those jokes. And my new favorite joke is Trump jokes. You want to hear it? This is the joke that got me 3 death threats from Oklahoma City. And basically, I was doing I was saying like, hey, listen, I'm not a Democrat or Republican. I've explained to you guys that I have a Muslim dad and a Jewish mom, so I've always been raised in the middle. I don't take sides. But this guy is too stupid and too chaotic to be our leader. Like, I don't want to go so far as to call the man retarded. Retarded is not a nice thing to say anymore. But I will say he seems like the kind of guy that pets cats too hard. That's not an anti-Trump, though. That's a pro-cat joke. Now, that's the part of the joke that's the tester, right? If they haven't started throwing things at me, then I go into the next step. And the next step is like, just make sense. I just want a leader that makes sense. You can't blame all of America's problems on immigrants when 2 out of the 3 women you've had kids with have thick Russian accents. Like, that doesn't make any sense. And then I go, is that why Melania stays so quiet? Is it because she sounds like Borat when she speaks? I go, would that break the illusion if she was on TV going, welcome to White House is nice.
Be best.
Be best, right? And then I go, shut up, Melania. And then I stop right there and I go, you see, now this is when people get mad at me. This is when they go, now you're being racist. You're making fun of Melania's accent. And I disagree. Racism isn't making fun of an accent. Racism is when you think you're better than somebody else just because of your race. And I don't think I'm better than Melania Trump because of my race. I think I'm better than Melania Trump because I've never fucked a Nazi. And that's
you're getting us in so much trouble, but I don't really mind.
Oh, really? I'm sorry, I didn't know about not kissing. But that's when people throw things at me. That's usually when I get it.
Oh man, that is outrageous. I love
But
it.
I'll tell you though, what's interesting to somebody who's never done comedy is hearing that you have a test point
Yeah.
in your show where you tell that first joke and it leads you to, do I go here or do I go there? Because
Test the
I've never
comfort.
heard somebody talk about something like that before.
It's a very insightful observation. I don't know that was a common thing pre-Trump, to be honest. And maybe it is more common for gay comedians. Maybe it is more common for comics who have more of a threat from different parts of America. As an immigrant, I literally started using online resources that gay people would use to say, hey, I'm going into this town. Is it safe?
Mm-hmm.
And if it wasn't safe for them, it usually meant it wasn't safe for a Muslim Jew either. So prior to that, I didn't really have jokes where I needed to test people or be afraid of people throwing things at me until it happened to me a few times. And I'm like, okay, this is real. And I have to pick, do I keep doing what I love? And if I do, I'm going to have to evolve it a little bit and figure out. And my goal is I am not an agitator. I'm not a contrarian. My purpose is not just to go out there and poke people with a stick. It's just to make people say, hey, maybe he's right. You know, I like the best comment I've gotten in my life in my 9 years of doing comedy was a guy coming up to me after a show in a cowboy hat and a t-shirt that said, the day they outlaw guns is the day I become an outlaw. Pretty opposite of what I represent. And he came up to me and he's like, I got to tell you something. I don't agree with you, but that shit was funny. and I just looked at him and I opened up my arms and he opened up his and we gave each other a big hug. And we still speak over email probably once every couple months. He's a sweetheart of a guy. Yeah. And I send him jokes sometimes and he sends me jokes sometimes. Sometimes they're too racist and I let him know. But we're friends and we genuinely respect each other. And I think there's a positive side to some of this negativity in the sense that we can evolve and stay brothers and sisters.
No, I think that's the key. You know, there are certain people, luckily on social media, you can unfollow people or just get rid of them altogether, you know, to save friendships in some cases. Yeah. You know, there's people that are detuned on social media just because the posts, the stuff that we're sending out, you know, was starting to wind me up. And I've also pulled right back from posting political stuff myself. Because at the end of the day, the people who are entrenched in a particular mindset are not going to change because you posted some meme. Sure. You know, they're diving in the wool in a lot of the cases, and you're just losing friends. So sure,
that's true. That's true. My mind, and I agree with you 100%. But the new observation I made is that even though the people that disagree with you might not be converts to what you're saying anyway, the people that do believe in what you believe in, they might be inspired to speak up more.
Yes, that's very true. It's a powerful emotion.
Very, and to remind them that they're not alone. You know, people that tend to say shitty things don't really need a lot of motivation to keep saying shitty things. Mm-hmm. But it seems to be harder to say, hey, that's not right, than it is to say, hey, you're a slur, and then insert slur. Yeah. It's really hard to kind of be the hall monitor. And I think, you know, it's a critical point in history where I don't think there's anything wrong with making your opinion heard.
Yeah. Talking about critical point in history, what do you think about the rise of the Karen?
You know, it's a shame. I think it's good that it's being caught on camera. I think cameras teach us a lot of things, whether it's like, oh, I'm not as good a shape as I thought I was in, to, you know, I think we all have a problem with self-awareness, self-aware wolves, I call them, right? Yeah. Where we're taught to be so selfish. We're taught to only focus on ourselves, on our flaws, that sometimes we say things and do things. We're human. We go to the path of least resistance, and we don't always consider our neighbors. We don't always consider people who might have a different experience than us. Mm-hmm. And I think capturing on camera, you know, might be a good lesson for a lot of people. If anything, I hope it provides perspective for people, and to knowing just because you can do something to hurt someone, that you shouldn't all the time, you know? You know, especially when it comes to people of color who are marginalized in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm. No, it's so true. You know, and I think this between coronavirus and then the race riots, and it's been an incredibly formative year. It's been a terrible year in some respects, but it's been very interesting as well. A lot of people are saying, "Oh, 2020 it's a terrible year." If 2020 was going to be called a name, it would be called Karen, and all these various things. I think it's been an incredible year, to be honest. I think that we've learned a lot about ourselves. I think
100%. I totally agree. I've learned a lot about myself, definitely, this year.
Yeah. I was getting my tire fixed yesterday in my car, and the guy next to me had was it George Floyd, Never Forget, Can't Breathe T-shirt on, and I thought to myself, I'm not going to say anything. He was like, "Hey man, how are you?" And I was like, "Oh, thank goodness, chat," and he was, it was just lovely, to, you get fed a particular story on the media because it sells newspapers and gets people to watch, but the actual reality of it is nowhere near as visceral as people are portraying in the media. So
I mean, people everybody just wants to be free, and they just want to live a good life. We only have one life. We have a very limited time on this planet. I don't see the point in spending it hating each other. It doesn't make a lot of sense. I think the only us and them is us versus people in power. Those are the people that divide us. It's not your neighbor. It's not someone that's a different color. It's someone whose income is in outer space. Those are the scary people. Those are the monster human beings. It's like pouring money on powerful people is like pouring water on gremlins. They become something else. And those are the people we need to be wary of. They're drunk on power. It's not your neighbor that's your enemy.
Yeah, very, very, very true. I said earlier on about your favorite jokes and they've carried through, and can we get to some comedy? I'd love to run a couple of bits because I haven't done stand-up for long. And I'd love to. I'd like to invite you to do it first. But is there any jokes that have just been your perennial favorites for you?
Oh, sure. I got a new one that I really enjoy because a lot of people know that I'm an Arabic comedian. Or I identify as an Arabic comedian. I go. One of the things about the coronavirus, it's nice to have these Zoom shows, but the thing I miss most about being an Arabic comedian is going on stage and occupying Jewish territory. Well, that joke kills in Palestine. And then I go, I'm like, you guys like that joke much more than the crowd did in Little Rock, Arkansas. And I go, scary place for an Arab comic because cowboy hats for me are like turbans for you. And I go, let's be honest, yeehaw is just white people for Allah Akbar. Like, that's all it is. Yeah. So that's my favorite little fun chunk where I'm talking about the things I care about, but I think I'm doing it in a way that's really playful and, and not in an aggressive way where people, even if you're a cowboy, even if you're a Jewish person, you could laugh at the Arab guy laughing at you.
Absolutely. And you're poking fun at yourself primarily, but also making fun of situations. That's one of the pieces that I remember watching. You posted that one not that long ago, and it's so good, and it killed in the moment as well, which is great. As I said before, it's hard when there's only a couple of people in the room, and you're a consummate professional in the sense that it's funny. You know it's funny, and you're charging through, and you don't need the room full of laughs. It helps, but it's funny, and that's different. That is the difference.
Yeah, I've been doing it a long time, and I think now I do it for me too, which sounds weird to say, I guess, but I do it for me, not me, the me that you're seeing now, but I do it for like the 8-year-old kid, that learn to be funny as a way to deal with bullies and learn to be funny as a way to deal with, being lonely at home and stuff like that. So I do it for that. I have an audience of one, and it's 8-year-old me that should have smiled more and laughed more when he was 8.
That's fantastic. I'm going to bring in Tommy. Tommy's just joined us not that long ago. Tommy's in New York. Tommy, Tamer here moved to New York from LA and is playing there regularly. And
hey, what's up, Tommy?
How you doing, bud?
Good, bro. How are you?
Pleasure.
If there's one reason.
Oh, I know, Joe. I just read your note.
Yeah.
Joe's actually Egyptian originally too. He was adopted, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I was making like Italian jokes with him. He's like, actually, I was adopted and I'm Egyptian. So
That's so funny. The first time me and Joe met was at the Dresden Rooms in LA, and we almost got in a fight, and then we ended up hugging each other after.
That's fantastic.
He got really mad at me. He's all, lower your voice, son. And I'm like, why are you, what? What are you talking about? It was crazy. It was over a girl, but we totally made nice after. He's a sweetheart and really funny guy.
Awesome dude, man. Yeah, I do a lot of work with the Stand in New York, so
Oh, cool.
I'm sure that you're familiar.
Oh,
But,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we were over there today. They're doing their to-go cocktail stuff, and
Oh, cool.
Joe is actually directing everything and directing like how to build the cocktails and
Wow.
be in it. And they had a few other comedians join them, which was pretty awesome, man. So
That's great. I had no idea. I knew I was speaking to some of the guys, and I knew they said something about June or July, that they were talking about reopening in whatever version of opening would look like. I think we're doing pretty good in New York. We're talking about phase 2 pretty soon. I think Cuomo said that. So that's great to hear that they're already doing some stuff.
yeah, this was close to the point. He's just using it kind of like to get comedians back to work. So
Sure.
doing some creative stuff, but they're going to be doing to-go cocktails. And they got some cool stuff down the line, man. That's such an awesome spot.
Yeah, it really is. The new location is amazing. Looks like a comedy club in a movie.
Yeah, and their food is epic,
Really good.
if I must say so. Chopped cheese all day, guys. If you guys haven't gotten involved yet.
Oh my God, you're so New York right now. Chopped cheese
All right, so
sandwich.
I've seen the sandwich talked about. What is a chopped cheese sandwich?
So it's kind of like the New York Spanish Philly cheesesteak.
Yeah.
So the key to a good chopped cheese, though, is adobo. And everyone tries to do a chopped cheese, but they don't put the adobo in it. And the Goya adobo, to be specific.
What is that? I don't know what that is. I know what Goya is, but what's adobo?
It's like a specific seasoning that they have. They have like 20 different types of adobo, but the one, it's like an all-purpose seasoning. It's poultry, it's pork, it's beef, it's everything, you know. So it's salt, pepper, and adobo, and then they put it on like burger patties, but they start chopping it, and they put in their onions, peppers, then they put in the cheese, and that all gets mixed together, and it either goes on a hero. There's no hoagie talk. There's no wedges. It's a hero, guys. Okay, let's put that one to bed as well. So they put it on a hero. And yeah, it's super simple, but super easy to mess up as well. And it's like a mix between a sloppy Joe and a Philly cheesesteak.
And right now, at this moment, 42% of Puerto Ricans are eating one.
That's a proven fact. That is a proven fact.
Is that why Giuseppe Gonzalez is always talking about chopped cheeses?
Exactly. That's fantastic.
That reminds me that 96.4% of all statistics are made up on the spot. Did you know that?
Yeah, that's true.
Proven
Especially when they come out of my mouth.
That's awesome.
Do you train out here as well tomorrow?
Yeah, you mean boxing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually work part-time at Overthrow. It's a
excellent. I know it very well. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah,
Alicia Napoleon's a rock star.
Oh, dude, she's an amazing boxer. And then so I have friends who work there, and I work there part-time, and then I work out at Gleasons, and hopefully we'll be opening there pretty soon. I don't know about Overthrow yet, but I know Gleasons is really actively pursuing being able to open.
I was at Gleason's baby for 6 years. Loved your Silverglade and crew. That's awesome.
Wow. Both such historic locations, you know?
Absolutely.
Gleasons and Overthrow, both.
And you got Delenn Parsley over at Overthrow as well. He trains at Gleason's and there. Yeah, I'm in Westchester now, so I'm at Champs Boxing.
Oh, cool.
In New Rochelle. But Gleason's will always be home.
Yeah. Wait till you see it now. They made it look real pretty. They painted it. It's all clean.
I don't like that.
I know. The showers. Dude, the first time I showered at first, this boxing gym has no water fountains, right? And the first time I ever boxed there, I remember going in the disgusting shower, and I looked, and the walls were pink, and I'm like, "Why are the walls pink?" And I'm like, and then I looked down, it's because my nose was bleeding. And then I look at the guy next to me, I'm about to apologize, and he was bleeding. And I'm like, "Oh Jesus, this is a real gym. I love it."
What you're telling me is the smell of a gym is the equivalent to the yellow staining on the inside of an Irish bar from everyone smoking.
That's a great comparison.
Yeah, kind of. It's earned.
It takes years to get there, and it's that character that makes it.
Except the old Gleasons had an open sewer line in the old locker room. The one that was on the second floor.
God.
Yeah, that was a fun shower.
I never went to that one, but I love the one in Dumbo. It's great.
Yeah, good stuff. We got to link up then, man.
Yeah, for sure.
You're in New York.
Yeah, I'm here now. I'm in the LES.
So Tommy's a really good guy to know, Tamer. Really,
right on.
Absolutely.
Right on. I'll send you a friend request after this. We'll link up. Yeah.
Good stuff, man. Excellent.
So Tamer, with you, obviously living in LA for as long as you did, and then moving to New York, And talking about comedy and talking about hack premises, what's the difference between New York and LA?
It's very funny. I don't think that, I think it's really what's the impact of the TV and film industry on comedy that changes LA. I think real comics in LA and real comics in New York are the same dudes and same girls. I think it's the industry in LA that fucks with comedy, messes with comedy.
Very
right?
much, because it's all about getting on television, making money, rather than just being funny.
Totally. And I think the business hurts my feeling all the time, but the art never does. Like when the business makes me thirsty, the art lets me drink. And I think New York is more about the art, and don't just say it, show it. Let's see how funny you are. And LA has always been about, kind of your draw and how marketable are you? Are you on this sitcom? Are you trying to, yeah, exactly. So, and I'm not being a hater. I just think for me personally, that's the only perspective I can give is my very own. And my own perspective is whenever I'm over 40% business and I need to be 65 to 70% art at all time for me to be happy.
Right.
Yeah. I'm still going to pursue the business. I'm still in the game. I'm still competitive. I still give a damn, but I can't have the business be a compass for me in any way, shape, or form as far as what I write about, who I target, and what I say.
And that's one of the ways you are able to be free, because you're not talking to someone. You're a lone wolf. You're self-employed. You don't have an HR department. I love that comment. That is so true.
Yeah.
I was self-employed for 20 years, TV presenter, radio, voiceover, stand-up, as you know, blah, blah, blah. And then 7 years ago, I joined Edrington and, went legit. And it was bizarre. And luckily, my first boss was Mark Bromfeld, which won't mean anything to you, but everyone else knows Mark. Mark is the coolest guy, maybe 10 years older than me, but he's a big pussycat. And he was the one that just helped me become less fireable than I was, because I was just so on the edge of being fired at all given time. And it's totally different, when you're used to 20 years of just saying what you want and dealing with consequences, to having an HR department and having to watch your P's and Q's. It is a big difference.
100%. Dude, like after this whole coronavirus thing has changed my world, and I'm learning to teach English as a foreign language. Nice. And I'm going to go and spend a year in Spain. And, when I'm out there, the first thing I had to consider is like, holy shit, I have to worry about students now. And I have to worry about people bumping into me outside of class. And so I'm not as free as I used to be. And I have to be careful of that because I'm building a small business. And there's a good little comedy scene there. So I think I'm going to spend a year enjoying the sun and enjoying the culture and come back, hopefully a stronger comic and being able to speak Spanish too.
Well, we have a great contact down there, Nicola Risk, who is the brand ambassador down there. I'll introduce you to her. She'll give you plenty of scotch if you want some.
Right on.
Lovely girl.
Right on. Yeah, I'm down.
When I did Jerry's course, he was talking about what are your observations, and it really helped hone, because I thought it was funny, but then it was taking what your natural instinct, and then obviously honing it and creating something that's stage worthy and all the rest of it, and to run a couple of lines. One of the ones that came out of Jerry's class was, at the time quite not very well off, let's say, because jobbing actor, paycheck to paycheck.
Sure.
And I said, one of the things that confused me, I guess, about moving to America was credit scores, because we don't have them in the UK. We don't have credit scores, and it's this ethereal number that lives in the clouds, and you're not allowed to look at it, otherwise it goes away and changes. But it controls your entire life. I personally think I have an excellent credit score, because every single one of my 17 credit cards has an outstanding balance. So that's good. So there we are. It was always. I also remember, we had sat our classes in that little space up on Hyperion.
I remember that class. Yeah.
I had a joke at one point about I was so poor I was actually stealing the toilet paper from the bathroom.
Wow, I remember doing that. I did it too.
You did?
Yeah, they had a bunch of rolls back there. I needed to save money.
Potatoes and toilet paper. It's superb. I wish I'd kept those toilet rolls, because right now that would have been a great investment. The way things are going, the prices
Dude,
are
I used to line my backpacks with aluminum foil, so the inside of my backpack was all foil, and then I'd go to like happy hours and shit, and I'd throw in like buffalo wing, and I'd come home with like 3 weeks worth of buffalo wings, zucchini sticks, all this stuff in a backpack. It was so gross. I should have had a heart attack.
Yeah, it's hard to walk away from free food. What other pieces really make you tick? What other pieces are your favorites, your go-tos that you just love running?
As far jokes, as far as bits, you know, I mean, I really love just talking about. My favorite thing about comedy is that when something messes with me in my daily life, that I can talk about it right away. You know, so I don't necessarily. I never thought this would be the case, but like my favorite bits change depending on my mood and depending on the audience. Like the best advice I ever got was do the show that's in front of you, not the one that's in your head. And I think if you have a favorite bit, you might be at a place where a certain joke will work better if you pay attention to where you are and go, hey, I'm in LA or I'm in New York, and this joke works better here or this joke works better there. In a lot of ways, I think it's like being a traveler. You know, like when I was in London, for example, I had a completely different opener than when I was in LA. And you know, like in London, I used to immediately acknowledge that I knew what they were thinking of me. So I opened up and I said, as you can tell by my accent, I'm stupid. And then they immediately, and it was like Eminem in 8 Mile going, yeah, that guy screwed my girlfriend. Yeah, I live in a motorhome. Yeah, and then hands the guy the mic and the guy had nothing to say. So I started out my set in England by being deprecating about being an American, and it immediately shut up the hecklers exactly the way that Eminem did in 8 Mile. So I don't have a favorite joke per se as much as I've got tactics, you know, and I treat every set like it's a living, breathing thing, and every audience like it's a living, breathing thing. And
that has to come from experience as well, to have that bigger bag of tricks that you can choose your own adventure. And, you know, curtail it and you know, fashion it towards the actual audience that you're with. And, you know, 100%. If you're getting away with body jokes and, you know, the political stuff is going really, really well, you can absolutely go down that line and go crazy with it. And
I think you got to be a bad parent to your bits. You know, you can't love your jokes unconditionally. You got to be a bad dad. Where you're like, I'll only love you if you get straight A's. Otherwise, you can fuck off. You know what I mean? That's the way my dad treated me. That's how I treat my jokes. You know, like the purpose of my joke is not to say those exact words or get that exact punchline. It's like Maya Angelou used to say, people don't always remember what you say, but they always remember how you made them feel. And that's what I try to go for in my comedy. I especially love when I'm in a place where people are racist towards someone that looks like me or is prejudiced in some way, shape, or form, and they come up to me. And I had a guy come up to me and say, I never met an Arab like you before. I didn't know Arabs were so funny. And I'm like, well, you've never met an Egyptian before. That's what we're known for. But I get it. I mean, I get it. You know, I'll tell you, one of my favorite bits is I address that. I open up by saying, you know, a lot of people say, you can't be an Arab. You're so happy. And I understand that it's because there aren't any happy Arabs on TV. There's only bad Arabs doing bad things because we're just on the news, right? But like we don't have our own TV show, and TV shows humanize people. Like Will and Grace did amazing things for the gay community, right? Good Times did incredible things for black people. I used to say the Cosby Show, but that's not true anymore, right? And I go, but nobody's ever made a TV show for Arabs yet. Nobody's made a.
Wait till I take a gulp so I can spit it out.
Yeah, right. And then I go in and say, but nobody's made a TV show for Arabs yet. Nobody's made Everybody Loves Ahmed, or a Malcolm in the Middle East, right? Or How I Met Your Mothers. No one's ever made it. And even though that's a joke, and there's such a truth to that, you know, that there's a reason why. When that guy looked at me after my show and said, I can't believe you're an Arab, you're funny. I was like, well, instead of just judging him and saying he's an asshole or he's racist, I stopped and I said, well, why? I just assume that every person's a good person. I assume that every audience is a good audience. And then it's up to us to adjust, like sailors would in an ocean. You can't change the waves. You can't change the effing weather, but you can change how you sail. And he ended up giving me a great joke, you know, because I realized the reason why He judged me, had nothing to do with me, had everything to do with what he's exposed to on television.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you could have been his first point of contact with somebody that changed the way he felt about an entire race.
And I like to think I am. He and I still talk once a month. He keeps trying to get me to buy guns. I'm not interested.
Well, I'm proud to say that I've been to Egypt 4 times, and
Wow.
I met some of the funniest people I've ever met. You know,
That's
and as
awesome.
you rightly say, it's not on television because that's not the tale they're trying to tell, but it's an amazing country, absolutely amazing.
Poor people love to laugh.
I possibly told you, but I started off in Cairo. One of the trips, Cairo down to Aswan, Felucca up to Luxor,
Wow.
minibus past Hurghada and down into Sinai into Sharm el Sheikh. 15 day in total the whole trip, but I saw a lot of the country and it's fascinating.
You saw more of Egypt than I did.
It's an amazing country. But anyway, Tamer, I have a billion questions that I wanted to ask you that we never got to because you're just so easy to talk to. And so
cheers, man. Thank you.
And I've taken up a lot of your time and I really appreciate it. But
no, dude, it's been my pleasure to be on, and it's been great to meet Tommy and Sri. Is that how you say it?
Yes, that's correct.
Sri. Got it. Easy. All right, cool. Well, thanks for having me, and it's been fun chatting with you guys. Tommy, I'll send you a message so we can link up.
Please do, man.